Hello and welcome back. It is I, Basement Lim. Basement. So I have been gone for a little while, and there's multiple reasons. First of all, I was a little tired, but second of all, it was an issue that involved some kind of thing called file corruption, and well, hours of recording disappeared in an instant, and oh my god, it makes me want to jump out a fucking window. Which sadly means that the Secret of Fire series is completely dead. Gone, 6 feet under. And this does sound sad, and it is sad. However, it did lead me to this project, which is a project I've been working on and thinking about for a long time. And I finally thought to get into it, thanks to, well, the failure that is the Secret of Fire series. And quite frankly, I think I like where I'm going with this, and it is about a game that has honestly changed me, weird enough, a lot after playing it. And that game is Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin. What? Hey, guys, come on, I haven't even gone to the points. Hey, shut up! Jeez, let me start doing things, okay? Christ. Most of this footage was recorded playing vanilla, however there's one mod I used in the background and its lighting engine, highly recommend it. And if I do get any information wrong in this video, I would like to apologize and hopefully you can forgive me for that. Most of this information comes out of the things I've read and I might have missed something crucial, and one more thing, there might be spoilers. Actually, there will be spoilers, so high spoiler warning if you intend to play the game and don't want to be spoiled for anything. Without anything further to do, let's get into the meat of the things. Ayo. Dark Souls 2 is the second game within the trilogy of the Dark Souls series and came out back in 2014 after the first game, or you know, the very popular game we know as Dark Souls, came out 2011. And after the first installment and seeing the huge success they garnered, Bandai Namco and the B team was set off to make the second installment. And after an incredibly troubled development and many other mishaps when creating the game, if you want to see more in depth, there's other videos. I don't know exactly a lot of it, so I'd recommend looking on your own what exactly happened. But after all that, you'd expect the game to be pretty damn bad, but surprisingly enough, I think once it came out, it actually got pretty good reception. People liked it, it was loved by a lot. But after many looking back at it, and after other FromSoft releases like Bloodborne, Dark Souls 3, Sekiro, and now Elden Ring, the perception of the game has changed drastically. Where it used to be everyone, oh, okay, most people like it, now it's pretty split. And it is for a couple of reasons. The first reason being that the quality and expectations of the Dark Souls games have increased by a lot, especially after Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3. After those two games came out, the ante and the expectations of a game's mechanics increased by a lot, and well, people want more quality, and for good reason. Like, come on, I love Elden Ring for a reason, okay? It's amazing. And secondly is that Dark Souls 2, despite it having similarities and having things from Dark Souls 1, it's vastly different. To both its detriment, but in my opinion also its benefit. There's new things to love and new mechanics that is rather interesting, but there's also some new mechanics that don't fit or in fact are pretty bad. Yeah, I'll get to it a little later. But essentially all this accumulating into, well, most people having a very split perception, and especially because Dark Souls 2 isn't very beginner friendly. I saw it firsthand when I played this game because I played this game last of all the other Souls games. Well, not including Bloodborne and Demon Souls because I don't have a PS4. But aside from that, it's not just players nowadays, but even back then, I think most people who had played Dark Souls 1 and who hadn't been completely new, or at least were more used to Dark Souls 1 combat, couldn't get used to Dark Souls 2 because of its difference. And especially if you played every other Souls game, that isn't Dark Souls 2 before Dark Souls 2, then, well, it won't feel as good because you just most people don't understand the mechanics, and I feel like the game doesn't explain it very well. Like, what's adaptability? Why does my healing go gradually instead of instant? Why the hell is this weird number under here? Well, counter damage? What's that? Isn't that only on thrusting swords? It just goes on and on and on, and there's just a little too much information, too much new stuff that just new players or veterans of the other Souls games will not understand, and I can't fault anyone for that. How is anyone supposed to understand it from the get-go? But it's a shame because I think this game is, well, underappreciated. I feel like it does a lot of good, and in this video I want to show that. Of course, there's people who are gonna defend this game like it's their damn child and basically go hell and back just to say that it doesn't have any flaws, which I don't agree with, but I also don't agree that the game is bad. In fact, I find it fun, and honestly, I find it the most interesting out of, well, I'm gonna get hate. Look, listen, hear me out. I have played this game the most out of the trilogy. You might find me weird, but look, I want to explain why I find this game so fun. But anyways, aside from my own opinion, I want to explain from my own opinion why I find this game good, and why you should maybe give it a second try, or at least try to give it a try with something else, you know? And maybe understand it from a different point of view. You don't even have to like it. Just hear me out and hear my thoughts, and tell me what you think about it in the comments below. Because I feel like I want to speak about this game and its interesting process. But aside from just speaking out of my mind, I also want to do some other things in this video. And if you probably see the watch time, and I'm guessing you're guessing why, this video is gonna be a little long. It's not just because I'm gonna basically tell you how much I like the game, how much I don't dislike the game, or how much I like or don't like it. Oh god, I'm speaking so much. But I also want to have a whole section just dedicated to, well, showing off my illustrations, but also showing what I would love to change about the game. Hypothetically, if I was a god and could just change this game however I wanted, what I would have wanted. And I would like to hear what you guys think about that section, but that's a little later. That you'll have to think about later. But for now, this introduction is over, and I want to go to what the things I like about the game. See you soon. There are a lot of good things I would like to talk about this game, and well, I could mention all at the same time. Just kidding, I can't. However, I think I would like to start with at least one of my favorite things about this game, and it's the fact that the atmosphere is absolutely impeccable. There's so many buildings, so many settings that just look awesome and have this serene feeling to it, and of course all the other Souls games do have atmosphere, but I feel like Dark Souls 2 excels at this department, especially when it comes to coloring of the different areas, like Dragon Lake Castle being grey, Harvest Valley being green, you have Iron Keep being just showered in red because of all the lava surrounding it. There's just more and more and more, and honestly, like, the feeling you get while playing this game in each area feels so different, and it really makes you feel like you're going on this giant journey through the whole continent of Dragon Lake, even though the map isn't as big as, you know, it makes it out to feel like. And I feel like another thing that isn't mentioned enough when it comes to what Dark Souls 2 does well is its lore. And no, I'm not just talking out all the, I'm not a simp, guys, I'm not a simp. But I feel like another thing that it does well is at least the lore tidbits, and it connects enough to Dark Souls 1 to at least feel like the same world that once had in Lordran, but it's far away enough to really feel like it's far in the future. Like, yeah, of course, there's the giant lore tidbits of the 4 great old ones, and the shards of Manus, or the daughters of Manus, whatever you want to call them, that do affect the world quite drastically. However, most of these names have been forgotten, cannot be recollected, or have or at least cannot be recalled from way, way back. And the culture has changed. The age of the gods in Anor Londo is long, long gone, and instead now there's a king who rules over Drang Lake, who is— Oh shit. I feel like that change is quite interesting, as it seems like the rule of man has become far more popular than the rule of the gods. But not only Drang Lake, but the countries surrounding Drang Lake. For example, the civil war-stricken bloody Ferosa, the warrior culture of Mira, Malfia that seems to at least have just a giant band of clerics, the fucking, I don't remember exact country the wizard and the pyromancer comes from, but the fact that they have a school for wizardry and pyromancy that seems to be really popular is also rather interesting. And there's probably more countries I haven't mentioned, and not to mention the free DLCs and their lore. For example, the fucking Ilium Lois and the Ivory King who's trying to suppress the old chaos. You have Sanctum Shulva, Sanctum City, that has been wreathed with poison thanks to Sin, the slumbering dragon. And then you have the old Iron King DLC and Broom Tower, which has been wreathed in ash. The king not even present, and now just completely empty, besides these living ashen zombies everywhere. And the undead curse still remains. Through all these years, all these decades, millennia, hundreds of years, the undead curse still here, still present. And the fire is fading once again, which means the curse is spreading, and you can see how kingdoms react and how they panic as the curse is taking over the citizens and everyone else. They put them in prisons, they torture them, or they just put them inside the gutter. Like, there's just so many things that are happening because of this curse, and you even see the curse firsthand. You see people around you that you care about either forgetting, becoming more and more forgetful over time, or you even lose someone close to you, which is tragic. And all of this accumulates in the curse feeling far more personal, far more sad and heart-wrenching, because you see what it does firsthand. And then you have Aldia, which is probably my favorite character in all of Dark Souls, honestly. How he just goes in the curse, questions you, and try to, you know, research, and makes you, instead of like in the ending linking the fire, you instead walk out and try to find another way. I don't know about you, but that feels fucking awesome. I think that all this lore makes Dark Souls 2, lore-wise at least, feel like a really good sequel. Of course there's flaws here and there lore-wise, but I don't know, I feel like it's a very good follow-up game when it comes to lore aspects. And there's a lot of things to enjoy outside of just lore. In gameplay-wise, there have been some improvements. For example, Dark Souls 2 lets the medium roll be far faster than it was in Dark Souls 1. The torch mechanic is quite fun, and there's a lot of interactivity when it comes to either destructible walls, exploding barrels, or even knocking on some doors. Of course, sadly, there's like, I think there's only one door you can knock on. I wish they had increased that, but hey, the option is still there. I find that pretty damn interesting, and there's far more interactable stuff you can do with the world around you. But not just the world, but your build variety is insane. You can infuse weapons you could not infuse before. You can even infuse catalysts, which is kind of crazy. You can power stance. Like, this is the game they introduced power stancing or dual wielding, which is fucking amazing. Like, of course some dual wield moves aren't as good as others, but the fact that the option was created here is awesome. Heck, you can even power stance 2 specific shields together, which is pretty damn fucking cool. Like, I don't know, there's just so many options you can do, and there's so many special weapons as well. Weapons that shoot magic despite being a melee weapon. There's fucking equipment that increases your stats, different armor sets. There's just a lot, and there's many more spells. Heck, hexes were introduced here too, which is fucking awesome. More dark spells. And there's a lot to just test out, so much variety, so much to do everywhere, and I feel like that adds a lot of replayability on the game. And the game size can be seen as an upside as well. You know, having a lot of bosses makes you be able to just fight a lot, and well, we all like our bosses, don't we? and we do like testing our weapons on those bosses. But not just that, there's also some new, quite interesting mechanics that I did like a little bit. Like the counterattack mechanic I think I mentioned earlier. Of course, it's a little weird to have counterattacks on weapons that aren't thrusting swords, but hey, thrusting swords and thrusting weapons still have an advantage with being able to use the old Leo ring, but having the other weapons adds more variety and makes some weapons better than others in other ways. For example, the Drake Blood Sword that is better, in some way better than the other greatsword due to its high, at least, counter damage. And there's just a lot to love, and when it comes to weapon variety, and I think that's fucking awesome. But the most important new mechanic Dark Souls 2 brought up that sadly never reappears in any of the other Souls games is definitely the bonfire aesthetic. Being able to refight bosses or redo areas in New Game Plus cycles is not just an interesting idea, but really fun when you think about it, especially considering that Dark Souls 2 probably has the most interesting New Game Plus out of all of the Souls games. Not just adding new rings like Dark Souls 3 does in New Game Plus, however it also adds either new enemies around the world and adds even a special encounter in Seldora later. Well, I'm not gonna spoil it, but it's pretty damn cool. But essentially, being able to use a bonfire aesthetics is just really such a good idea. I don't know why they never brought it back, especially because you can refight bosses. Like, man, I wish I could refight Melania or Radahn in you know, my first games without having to go fully into New Game Plus, but hey, what can you do? But aside from all of that, I think we have gone over the biggest good stuff you could say about Dark Souls 2, but now I want to go to the more neutral side. Both that isn't good, nor is it bad. Things that couldn't be considered immediately as god tier, but couldn't be considered as shit tier. So yeah, I think we can go to the next section. Wazoo Allah. There are many mechanics within Dark Souls 2 that exist and doesn't exactly make the game worse, but I feel like it doesn't make the game any better either, or at least changes the game in a way that really shouldn't be. And I think a very good example in the that I can bring out at least right now is the concept of life gems. And you might say, well, life gems? But I love those, and don't get me wrong, I like life gems too, but as many have pointed out, life gems are just essentially a better version of the flasks. Like the flask heal gradually, so does the life gems. You can move while having a life gem, it's faster popping a life gem, life gems are cheap, you can have 99 of each. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I feel like they gave way too much power to a life gem more than the flask that you already have. I don't know why they didn't just make it easier to use a flask either, maybe a limited amount of life gems, but I feel like a life gem is a big contingency. Especially because some do love them, but some also don't like the concept of them. Some want the usual Dark Souls healing source of just flasks, and I can understand that. Personally, I feel like life gems are pretty neat, but I feel like they shouldn't be better than a flask, in my opinion. Another very neutral thing within Dark Souls 2 is, I would say, the enemies. While some enemies are fucking awesome and really cool and definitely like just fun to fight, I feel like some of them are the complete opposite term and just kinda either meh or just straight up annoying. And I'll get to enemies later in the more negative section because there's other things I would like to talk about, but if you talk about enemies from themselves, I feel like most of them are alright, but some of them just need some working on it. You can really see the rushed nature of the game when looking at some of the enemies at least. And that same thing goes for bosses. Like, there's a lot of bosses I like, okay, look, I'm a big fan of skeleton lords. I like the big skeleton gang, I'm not gonna lie. I like the old Iron King, even though he's a big, goofy, easy boss. I feel like the Raren and the Lost Sinner are fucking epic too. Duke's Tear Fairy is spooky. Like, I always feel like some of these bosses, they have potential, they're fun. I think there was another boss that came to mind as well. Oh yeah, Velstad. Fucking mega shad. But then there's also some lackluster bosses in the roster, like Congregation, Covetous Demon. Are you kidding me? Like, look, nothing against Jabba the Hutt and all, but yeah, I kind of feel bad killing him. Like, there's a lot of bosses that don't do much at all. They're either way too easy, and some of them in the negative section, we'll get to that later, are just straight up bullshit. But yeah, I feel like some bosses just are somewhat lackluster. Some of them are cool, but they're taking too much from another boss, like the old Dragon Slayer or the Twin Dragon Riders. They're just either reuses of a different game or reuses of the existing game without really building anything upon these bosses in the first place, and I feel like that's a big missed opportunity. Not bad, but not exciting either. And another thing that could be argued is the map openness. And personally, I love the map of Dark Souls 2. Okay, maybe not the connectivity, we'll get to that later. But I do like how open it is from the beginning. I like that you can have multiple ways you can go to. You can either go here, you could go there, you could go anywhere. But at the same time, this openness isn't very conveyed in some areas. Like, at least when I was in the Shaded Woods for the first time, I didn't know how to go to Nachka. I got a little lost, you know, and there's probably other places we got lost in other regions of the game, at least in the beginning. Like, it becomes a little more linear later, but I feel like the game doesn't convey it 100% super well, like it should have. But it can be circumvented with experience. One thing that cannot be circumvented with experience, at least, is durability of weapons and armor, and rings, of course. Let's not forget those. Well, it's not exactly terrible. Like, durability can be circumvented with repair powders. I feel like the amount of repair powder game gives you is a little too low, and the amount of enemies you fight is a lot, so it'll break your weapon quickly, and I feel like the game shouldn't be so harsh when it comes to durability. It's not a huge issue per se, because you can have multiple weapons if you manage your weapon well, or you're careful pick the right amount of weapons or the right weapon to use for the situation. Yeah, durability won't be big of a problem, but I feel like sometimes it just gets in the way, especially because some enemies break your durability rather quickly. Which is, well, scary. Like, come on, I don't want to fight Sin and then have my epic Heidi Knight sword almost break. What the fuck am I supposed to do then? And, you know, talking about weird weapon mechanics, sweet spots. I don't know about you. Look, I like halberds, I like the fucking Black Knight Great Axe, I like these weapons, I like scythes. Problem. Like, I don't want to hit a boss with a fucking halberd and it does literally jack shit because I didn't hit it in a very specific spot. Like, I feel like this mechanic could either be removed and no one would care, or they should have just made it a little more rewarding. Like, if I hit someone with my sweet spot, I should be able to do a whole lot of damage, not just the normal damage you would do if you didn't hit it. I don't know about you, but that's a little disappointing. Once again, not terrible mechanic, but not a very fun one either. Makes it way too gimmicky. And another thing that makes it a little too complicated for no reason is like enemies not respawning. And yeah, I know you can join the Champion Covenant and respawn enemies, but they'll be stronger, and I feel like this it might be an excuse to just put a shit ton of enemies and say, oh, if you don't want to deal with them, oh shit, just kill them over and over. And who wants to farm an enemy 12 times to make him start respawning? And of course, some people like this mechanic. Some don't want to fight, let's say, the Crystal Fucky Reindeer from Fuck Reindeer Valley. But, so they'll like kill the reindeer 12 times. But I don't think most people want that. Some don't like that. And I'm in the group that doesn't like that, you know? I don't want to have to, like, farm an enemy to make you start respawn. In fact, I think enemies should be able to respawn. Well, every enemy except the reindeer. Another thing some people like or don't like is leveling up in Dark Souls 2. Because in Dark Souls 2, leveling up costs far less than it usually does in the other Souls games, so you can level up far more often. but the levels aren't as impactful in some ways, but more impactful in others. Like when you level up, you get a little bit of health despite any level you might take, which is cool, and other stats get affected when you're leveling a different stat. But some stats aren't as strong when you level up. Like, let's say you level up the strength stat, and you try to get up your damage from, let's say, your Gug's sword. It's not going to go as much as you would in any other game. Like, of course, you can put a shit ton of levels, but some people like the satisfaction of having one level have a big impact. Personally, I liked Dark Souls 2 leveling up system, but once again, this is up for opinion. This isn't exactly an objective thing, I would say. And a final tidbit, illusion walls are real in this game. I don't know why you have to click A to open an illusion wall. Just, like, come on, B-Team. Just make me hit the wall and then it'll open. I feel like it's a little strange that you have to click A. But aside from that, that's all the weird stuff. The neutral stuff, as I call it in this list. It's not as much description as the other section I'm about to get to, or the good section that I was previously. But I feel like these things are still worth it to take up and discuss. And if you have any opinions about all these, at least I would say more opinionated parts of this video, because I feel like most of these, like enemies, bosses, life gems, that depends more on the person playing the game. So I would like to hear what you say and what you think. Personally, I feel like most of these are harmless and some of these are a little annoying, but not the worst. But talking about the worst, I'm going to talk about the section where I go over the bad stuff. Because look, I love Dark Souls 2. I love this game. Don't get me wrong, but I will not ignore the negativity that remains within this game. I will not ignore the flaws that are blatantly shit in this game. And you know what? Without these flaws, I would say the game would be 10 times better. Christ, because of these flaws, the game becomes worse. And I'm about to tell you what these flaws are. Are you ready? Let's get to fucking going! Ah! Oh, Dark Souls 2, you're my beloved baby. But my very flawed and deformed beloved baby. Because, oh boy, there's so much that should have been fixed here. I don't know why the B-Team didn't update to do anything about it. Okay, let me get into it. I'll start with you, the player character, and what's wrong with you at first. Which there is a lot. First of all, despite your rolls being faster, which is really nice, it feels like everything else about your characters just become more sluggish. It feels your inputs are worse, it feels your character's tracking are worse, and especially tracking on rolling attacks. Like, the likeliness that you'll miss after rolling and attacking is so high. It's like your character can't turn beyond 180 degrees when you roll an attack. It's really dumb. Secondly, it feels like everything your character responds to your button presses is slightly slower. Like when I try to block, I swear sometimes my character just doesn't block fast enough even though I click the button. And it's not just the speed of things, it feels like you can do less actions than you could previously. Like, if you try to attack, everything consumes far more stamina. Attacks consume more stamina, rolling consumes more stamina, blocking maybe not, but still, like, doing things in general just consumes a shit ton of stamina. It doesn't help that the amount of stamina you get falls off after you have invested 20 points into endurance. What? And it doesn't just stop there when it comes to the amount of actions you can do. Some big weapons, especially like larger weapons, heavy attacks, they consume like 75% of your bar. That's insane. So you can't do much, and this alone wouldn't be the worst. Yeah, it would be annoying or make it a little more sluggish, but you could still fight and do things. But it feels like the game makes it so much more unfair by making your enemies faster. Like, there's so many times where enemies attack, just flail around and can just attack you for long periods of time. But you can't, because you can't just incapable of that due to your low stamina bar and the speed you do things. The amount of enemies that have attacks that cannot be reacted, like the Heidi Knight attack, is ridiculous. Like, this shouldn't even be in the game at all. Enemies' hitboxes are scuffed as well. Like, damn, especially a low adaptability, it's really bad. Like, you can't roll through attacks if you have low adaptability. It doesn't help with their bad hitboxes. It's insane. And it doesn't help that at least mostly, like, not just Dark Souls 2 Vanilla, but also Scholar thought it would be a good idea to increase the amount of enemies that are already present, so it just becomes a giant gang fest. Like, there's just way too many enemies everywhere. And not just that, I should have gone into adaptability. Adaptability is the fucking worst. It is so diarrhea dookie, I'm not gonna lie. Essentially what adaptability does is that it's a stat that dictates your agility, and agility dictates how many iframes you have while rolling. And how fast you consume healing items. What? Nothing should ever be banned, like, rolling should not be banned in a stat. If it worked well that rolling was based on your equipment load, then it should remain that way. And it doesn't help that the bosses and the enemies of this game have terrible hitboxes as well, so it just kicks you down while your fucking legs are broken. It's not okay. And it gets better. It doesn't help that enemies have super high aggro range, so it becomes even more punishing. You can't run away. You don't have iframes while opening doors, opening chests. Like, the game just limits you more and more as a player. And I'm guessing it's because, once again, the B team looked at Miyazaki's works and the A team is like, hard equals good. No, there are other things to the game, and it feels like by the time they tried to fix what they did, it was too late, and now it sucks. And, well, it doesn't suck, but the aspects that are bad in Dark Souls 2 are absolutely abysmal, and oh my god, there's some good examples. I'll get to them soon. And it doesn't help also that this game seemingly is obsessed with runbacks. The amount of runbacks you have to do in Dark Souls 2 is insane, and the fact that they are so just designed to be as obnoxious as possible. Smelter Demon, for example. You want to go to Smelter Demon? Well, here, 1,000,000 Alon Knights that can all aggro you for a super long distance. They have super fast attacks that is super hard to react to, and they do a lot of damage and have a lot of health. That's ridiculous. That's bad. Why would you do that? And it's not just the runbacks that are terrible in this game, but it's also some bosses, as I mentioned previously, but there's some outrageous fucking examples. The worst one probably is Ludden Solo and the Gang Squad. Those two are terrible for different reasons. The Gang Squad is just 3 really tanky, hard-hitting NPCs that run after you forever, and Ludden Zolan is not just a gank boss with 2 tigers that you essentially fought previously, but there's a giant runback. There's ridiculous, with the worst enemy in the game. And sadly, there's a bunch of examples. Even one of the best bosses in the whole game, fucking Sura Long, has a terrible runback. And I don't know why this game is so obsessed, or at least the B team was so obsessed with just filling this game with runbacks. It's like, I feel like they looked at Dark Souls once, like, runbacks, and thought that was a part of the game. No, it's not a part of the game. In fact, no, there's not many people that like runbacks. Like, that's why you can see in Elden Ring, at least, that, well, there aren't many runbacks, because no one likes them in the first place. It's a shame, because oh my god, all this could be rectified with either just reducing the amount of bosses by 1, or by just putting a bonfire before a boss. So much of this could be fixed, and just not make enemies as aggroed, fix their placements, reduce the number of enemies. Like, this all could have not been as bad as it is, but sadly it really is that bad. It's a shame, because I love this game, but it's just so beginner unfriendly. Like, when I started playing this game, I thought it was the worst ever and never want to play it again, but out of my curiosity, I played it again and tried a little better, and I got better at it, and eventually I started to enjoying it a lot, and now it's one of my favorites. But many people aren't going to be able to see that, because, well, the first time around there's just going to be all of these ganks and hard-hitting fucking enemies that you can't react to with terrible hitboxes. And it makes 0 fucking sense. And not to mention the amount of cheap tricks the game sometimes pulls. Like, come on, an ogre behind a big door that attacks you super quickly, a fucking barrel that explodes that gets hit by a turtle and you can barely avoid it. It's like, I don't know about you, like, this sounds like the exploding barrels and this and that sounds fun on paper, but when you play against them, it's not as fun. It's pretty shit. And I don't know, I never understood why they never fixed this in Scholar. That's what frustrates me most. Like, Scholar's supposed to be some kind of remaster, yet it fixes none of these issues. It fixes a few, like it adds new shortcuts, it makes the Dragon area objectively better, but other than that, many of these issues still remain here, and I don't know why, especially with the runbacks. So yeah, those are some very big grievances I have, and it breaks my heart because remove some of these grievances, fix around and polish the game, and I'd say at least a big majority would enjoy the game by just making it a little more smoother to play. But because of the rushed fucking development and the weird mindset the B team had at the time and the weird obsession with ganks, it just led to Dark Souls 2 not being as loved as it should have been. And it's a shame, because I love this game and I really wish the game was better. It breaks my heart to see that Dark Souls 2 has become not as liked as time has aged, and the fact that at least the B team or Bandai Namco never thought to maybe try to give it a little fix. Because, man, my dream would be to fucking get this a true remake, a remaster, a complete reimagining, where the original view of the game could be made, but also with the modern mechanics of a modern Souls game, and see truly how it would look like. But alas, that will never happen, which is a shame. But hey, despite all these flaws, at least I'm happy there's things to appreciate, and this game isn't a complete shit show. And I'm happy that at least there's still a community that loves it, despite its flaws. Only if there was a way to fix it. Oh wait, there is! There's, well, a bunch of mods out there. As you've seen in the background, there's the lighting engine mod that I highly recommend, but there's also other mods that does some kind of reimagining of Dark Souls 2. There's the Seeker of Fire mods, I think there's one called Augur of Darkness, and there's many more. So don't be afraid to just sit there, check these out, especially Seeker of Fire, because I have played that mod and oh my god, it fixes so much of the game and makes it so much more enjoyable than it already is. And I'm quite amazed with how many fans would try to fix this broken yet beautiful gem of a game. And that's joy on my face. But you know what? I think I've been babbling on a little too much. I think I want to take a turn and try to give this a little fix. I want to show you what I would have done if I had, let's say, godlike gamer powers and could change the game in ways I could. And show you what I would love to change, specifically about this game. I don't know how long this next section is going to take. I don't know if you guys are going to like it or not, but I hope you will. And I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video. But why wait on fixing it when we can hypothetically fix it ourselves? Let's go! Woo! Hello, sorry to cut in randomly here in the end, but this is going to be the end of this video at least, as I now see that the other part is going to take a little longer than I expected, and I do want to release this, so my humble apologies, but there will be a part 2 to this, well, two-parter kind of thing, where I'll go over what I want to say. But my finishing statement is that I love Dark Souls 2, and it's just how it is. I've always loved this bloody game, and I still do. But it doesn't mean I don't like the other games too. I love Dark Souls 1, I love Dark Souls 3, and god damn, Elden Ring is my favorite game of all time. And honestly, I'm very grateful for FromSoft and for creating this and making my life better, especially as I played well, Elden Ring specifically under a very hard period of my life, so it's really nice. But I want to thank you all for enjoying my video and listening and looking at it this whole time, and I hope you look forward to the next video that will be coming out. That will be essentially the part 2 of this, and I hope you look forward to it. either way, I hope you all have a very fun Souls time, fun time, and good, wonderful day. Bye!